Marc Guehi has an opportunity to fundamentally change the way that Liverpool play this season. And I think that there are so many people who are talking about this sliding doors moment, this frustration, this worry that Liverpool have felt now that they were stuck with Van Dijk and Konate. Being stuck with Van Dijk is certainly one thing. That's incredible. Being stuck with Konate, less so. Not because Konate is particularly a bad player, though his demise or the reduction in performances does need to be studied. I think he's really struggling with this new role and the new build-up that he has to do at the back and everything else. I just don't think it suits him as a player right now. And you can see why, I'd imagine, Liverpool are leaving the field from losing 3-0, Konate being subbed off with a wry smile on his face, etc., etc. And they're going back and analysing that and going, small margins, big changes. And, we've analysed this for quite some time now, what Marc Guehi would bring to Liverpool. But now Liverpool are apparently bringing in the £35 million level of money to get Marc Guehi out of there in January. First of all, I think it shows a level of desperation from Liverpool at centre-back and needing to have that level of build-up, not only to kind of revive what's going on under Slot, but also just to show the other players like the level of intent or just the level of capability. He's also very unique. He's a ball-playing centre-back, he's a ball-carrying centre-back. He's great with that diagonal ball, he's great with the long balls, but he's also great at carrying out from defence. And these are two things that, again, whilst it might appear that Konate has, every footballer can kick a ball, he's not comfortable in those areas. He's much more comfortable in the defensive side of the game, which much more suited the Slot style of football. And to an extent, what Klopp asked him to do, right? It much more suits the Klopp era, is what I'm saying. What Slot's now asking him to do doesn't feel as native to him, doesn't feel as intrinsic to the game of Konate. And that is why Guehi is so important and kind of a linchpin for Liverpool. It's not even, I've been banging on this channel about 3-5-2, 3-5-2, 3-5-2, a shift in shape. I think we can get a little bit obsessed with the shift, what the shape is going to be. But for me, Liverpool having two central players up front, width, and then a core midfield with three guys at the back, which really transitions to a two, and then when they're really in control, and then a third pushes into the midfield, just to give Liverpool so much numerical superiority. Marc Guehi is a good shift towards that. And spending 35 million, I think, is a pinch if Liverpool then revive their season, then get into the Champions League, then begin to just get a foothold on where this Arne Slot era really is, rather than the hyperbole and the, hey, we lost 3-0, therefore we're terrible. Because I think it shows, I think the results against Forest, the results against City, and to an extent, whatever the results are against PSV, a team who beat us last season, by the way, and all those other teams, it will show how one piece, how it's not about blaming Konate, it's about saying a system requires all the pieces to work together, can be so key in upgrading a team. And I think there was always an assumption, because we kind of knew what the Guehi situation was at Crystal Palace, that Guehi would push for the move. Crystal Palace would sell because they only had one season left, and they knew that there was money on the table for him. They knew there were offers, and Marc Guehi wanted to leave, and he kind of said his goodbyes, and he'd done all of the requisite things you need to do in order to leave. He'd won those final few games, and he'd sort of put Palace in a good position, and blah, blah, blah. But then the Glasner thing really kind of got in the way for Liverpool, and rightly so. Like, Glasner is a great player, and Marc Guehi, as much as we want to talk about player power and all those kind of things, doesn't mean you can automatically leave a club, right? The thing that did to Liverpool was derail a lot of what it was they were trying to do. I don't think that if we had Leone, it would have changed that season, the season that we've had so far, all that much. Maybe it would have been a good shot across the bows for Konate if we'd have been able to rotate him. And maybe it would have been good if Joe Gomez was a little bit more fit, which again is what we're seeing from Slot. But apparently Joe Gomez is training with the team now. Apparently, we are looking at bringing him in instead of Konate, which to me signals kind of code red. To me signals not that he's a bad player, but more, right, we really need to do something about this, because what Konate is currently doing is just not sufficient. And you might be saying, what is that? Okay, well, let's break that down. What can Marc Guehi do that Konate can't? And what can Konate do that Marc Guehi can't? Well, first of all, Konate is an absolute boss in the air. The guy wins his headers, the guy wins his duels very often, and the guy is great at isolating a player one-on-one and just taking the ball off them further down the field. He's a little bit weaker the closer he gets with his back to the goal, just because I think sometimes he struggles to sort his feet out, he kind of panics a little bit, and that is where Marc Guehi comes into his own. I don't think Marc Guehi is as strong at winning the ball further down the field in the air as he is on the floor. He's great at winning the ball back when the ball is on the floor, and you just need to get it and get away. Marc Guehi is also great at getting out of tight situations. He's fantastic at dribbling. He's almost more like a midfielder in that sense, and he's really good at progressing the ball down the field, finding that correct pass. Not always the most risky pass, but finding the correct pass to open up a new attack. Not to open up the opposition, to open up a new attack. That, again, great. Reduces the amount of pressure on Frimpong, or on Kerkez, depending on which side of Guehi is going to play. And it just changes the shape that Liverpool can take up in attacks, but also in defence. That's big for us. It's big for us this season. And I think it's a fundamental to Arne Slot. These fundamentals are so key when it comes to unlocking other Premier League sides. And so many other Premier League sides have realised, hey, Liverpool don't look all that good in these positions. Liverpool don't look like they're all that strong in these areas. That, for me, feels fundamental. And I think that's why it's going to make a big difference getting Marc Guehi, if we can. Some people are saying, well, again, it's just spending more money. We would have spent this money in the summer. If we'd have bought Marc Guehi in the end of that window, you wouldn't have been talking about that money. It was a relatively low fee compared to the other signings we made during the summer, but you wouldn't be talking about that because you'd be seeing the differences that Marc Guehi would make right now. Not only to Van Dijk, who I think would then in my mind, you'd have a double A side. You'd have an A in Van Dijk and you'd have an A in Marc Guehi, so you'd be able to rotate that during the game. I think that Slot would also experiment with the way that we then shape our midfield. I think it would impact on basically draw diagonal lines out from wherever Guehi is, and it impacts those players immediately next to him. Van Dijk, I think it also impacts the goalkeeper. Also because the goalkeeper then doesn't have so much pressure on him to distribute because Marc Guehi's distribution and carrying is much, much better. And there may be times where he gets caught out. There may be times where he kind of, doesn't do what it is that we need him to do. He's not always going to make perfect decisions. Nor is Konate, nor is Van Dijk, nor is anyone in that back line. But what it does allow us to do is drop our midfield even further forward because Guehi is such a good ball progressor. We don't need to do, sounds patronising, but the same kind of hand-holding that you have to do with Konate. And we can suddenly progress the ball in such different ways that we don't need to have the insurance to the right of him or in front of him in order to open our positions up. Now, that's not to say that you won't ever drop a midfielder in front of him, you won't ever drop someone into that back line, because he needs passing options. But it does change the way that we can move the ball. And Konate, I'm sure there are, again, there are so many times in the game where I go, that's a nice pass there from Konate. And that's good, I like the way he's progressed it. But there are also so many times where I'm frustrated by the stilted build-up that Liverpool have. And I know a lot of people are talking about Liverpool's slow ball progression, all these kind of things, and just slow passing at the back. My frustration comes when we go, oh, it's just slow, it's just Arne Slot. But we're not looking at the pieces that we're giving to Arne Slot. Van Dijk is he's a very good passer, but he's not exactly like ball progressor number one. I don't think Konate ever was as well. And I think, obviously, for that, we had Trent. To an extent, Robbo, because he would make those kind of marauding runs. But that's a different kind of distribution. Trent was really a very big outlet on that side for Liverpool, right? And it just made a big difference because you basically got a get out of jail free card. You've got a guy who can distribute brilliantly, always. And that, I think, is so key for Liverpool. We were going to solve our ball distribution problem and our creativity problem by bringing in a centre-back who can distribute differently to a wing-back in Frimpong or Bradley, who are then already progressed, or into a midfield which contains Florian Wirtz, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, McAllister, Curtis Jones, creative, ball-carrying, ball-winning, dynamic midfielders who can fit together in a number of different shapes and complement, if, say, Guehi wants to progress the ball, Gravenberch can drop in. I also think then it changes. I'll be completely honest. I'm not sure that Szoboszlai plays so much at right back this season if Marc Guehi can progress the ball or any of our backline can progress the ball in the way that Marc Guehi can progress it. I think we would be much more, how can I put it, like, comfortable in that backline if, we knew that there was ball progression. And again, it's not to say Marc Guehi solves everything, but I think the ripple effect of bringing in a new centre-back, the ripple effect of what it is that he can do in terms of carrying and passing and just ball rotation, not that Konate can't do any of it, but it's just doing it consistently and doing it in a more natural way, will unlock a lot of what Liverpool can do this season. So, let me know what you guys think in the comments below about that. Let me know what you think about bringing in Marc Guehi. I think 35 million is a perfectly reasonable price for Marc Guehi. I think anyone, even though he's in the last season of his contract and those kind of things, if that's what it takes to save Liverpool's season, then go ahead, save it. Go crazy. I wouldn't buy him for 100 million, but you get what I'm saying. He's available, and if he wants to come, and it means that we get like a straighter run at him without having to bid against Barcelona, Real Madrid, Arsenal, whoever else, Chelsea, get in there, pay the money. And apparently there are people out there that are saying that Marc Guehi has apparently already agreed these things and wants to make that move and kind of come good on the initial agreement that he had. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know how you're feeling about the overall season. Obviously, I'll be back later in the week to talk about the results, but also preview the weekend. And I will chat to you guys in a while. Much love.